Oh, all that walking made me sleepy. And this bed is just like the first one. Also too hard. I guess I'll sleep in the one that's too soft.
To everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Bring me Snow White's heart in this box.
What'll I do with the rest of the body?
Put it in this box. Then you'll get your reward.
Disney believed it was forging a brave new fairy tale, yet every modern tweak seemed to loosen another brick in its legacy. The mandate from Burbank read like a marketing slogan: strip out the prince, swap the dwarfs for inclusive CGI magical creatures, and push empowerment over romance. On conference calls, executives applauded the vision. Meanwhile, veteran animators whispered that the heart of Snow White was being surgically removed on a spreadsheet. Scripts ping-ponged between writers so fast the tracking numbers blurred. Each revision demanded fresh costumes, altered sets, or entire characters erased, inflating the budget by the hour. When actor Peter Dinklage publicly blasted Disney for dwarf stereotypes, an overnight memo eliminated the seven entirely, triggering a VFX overhaul that devoured weeks and millions. Crews were quietly told to expect 90-hour weeks until holiday shutdown, overtime that burned through contingency funds like lighter fluid. Even catering costs ballooned as endless night shoots required hot meals for 500, and payroll specialists joked that the film was feeding an army instead of a princess. Meanwhile, render farms in Vancouver hummed, recalculating snowflakes for scenes that kept getting dropped in editorial reviews. Then came the literal spark. A lighting rig shorted on stage 12, igniting a small blaze that halted production for 10 days. Insurance covered equipment, not lost time. To stay on schedule, producers shifted to a chilly orchard outside London to capture the poison apple scene, only to learn the leafless trees looked post-apocalyptic. Replacement foliage was flown in from Spain overnight, another six-figure band-aid that required digital touch-ups later. Early winter test screenings were a gut punch. Viewers admired the costumes yet called the story hollow. Marketing scrambled, ordering reshoots to reinsert romantic hints they had just deleted. Each reshoot day cost roughly $700,000, and the schedule was already frayed. Executives whispered that the budget, once capped at $180 million, had blasted past $270 million without a final frame locked. The facade cracked wide open when a paparazzi drone leaked the first look at Disney's new creatures. Tall, short, trollish, and entirely unrecognizable, they ricocheted across TikTok with captions mocking the studio's DEI spreadsheet fantasy. Overnight, approval on fan forums nosedived, retail partners paused merchandise orders, and analysts began revising earnings forecasts downward. Outside the bubble, the phrase woke white started trending, and it wasn't meant kindly. Inside the executive suite, someone finally asked the question nobody wanted to voice. What if nostalgia isn't enough to sell a lecture? The silence spoke louder than any focus group graph, yet the most volatile ingredient of all hadn't been added to the cauldron. Rachel Zegler was about to start giving interviews, and the fuse she lit would burn all the way to opening night. Rachel Zegler stepped up to the first press junket microphone with a smile that looked rehearsed and a fuse that was anything but. What should have been a breezy, "I'm honored" interview spiraled the moment a blogger asked about the prince. Zegler laughed, sharp, dismissive, and called him basically a stalker. Cameras clicked. Within hours, that 2-second soundbite detonated online, and Disney's crisis team realized their star had just kicked the studio's fragile peace talks into the gutter. Rather than retreat, she doubled down. In back-to-back red carpet chats, she rolled her eyes at decades of fairy tale romance, declared Snow White's original arc creepy, and casually told skeptics, "I don't need your business." The comment hit like a hammer in a glass shop. Moms who grew up humming "Someday My Prince Will Come" felt personally slapped. Culture war commentators smelled ratings gold. YouTube exploded with thumbnails screaming, "Zegler cancels Snow White fans," and the algorithm rewarded every outrage echo with fresh impressions. Meanwhile, political dice started rattling. Journalists resurfaced her old tweets telling Trump voters to go away and never know peace. Overnight, the film wasn't just entertainment, it was territory in America's endless culture trench war. Headlines mutated from bold Disney update to Hollywood lectures middle America again. Internally, marketing execs begged Zegler to pivot to heartfelt gratitude. Instead, she posted a TikTok mouthing a meme song about haters, punctuated by an ironic wink. The clip went viral for all the wrong reasons. Agents who once touted her as the next Audrey Hepburn began fielding nervous phone calls from brand partners. A A fragrance sponsor quietly paused negotiations, citing alignment concerns. On the studio lot, whispered bets circulated. Would Disney muzzle her, recast her, or simply pray the controversy translated to ticket sales? The accounting department ran scenarios, every version where the box office dipped below 200 million spelled layoffs. Yet the meltdown had only reached Tier 1. Late-night hosts sharpened monologues comparing Zegler's interviews to stepping on rakes. Bill Maher quipped that Snow White didn't need a prince. She needed a publicist with a cattle prod. Even typically neutral morning shows aired side-by-side clips of the classic 1937 cartoon, in Zegler's disdainful quotes, letting audiences draw their own conclusions. Each segment ended the same way, a knowing chuckle and a tease for tomorrow's newer, juicier headline. Disney's top brass scheduled an emergency media training session and drafted apology talking points. Zegler arrived, politely listened, then offered a politely firm, no thanks. She believed audiences would appreciate honesty over corporate polish. Perhaps she was right in some alternate universe, but not in the one about to collide with South Park's writer's room, because that writer's room was already scribbling a parody only they could deliver, and it would land harder than any press conference ever could. The day the episode dropped, every network feed, comment thread, and trading desk would be screaming the same two words, woke white, everywhere. South Park smelled fresh bait and dove in head first, unveiling Woke White the Reinvention during a surprise late March mini special. The cold open alone set social feeds ablaze. Cartman wakes up as a black woman, screams at Kathleen Kennedy's hovering drone, "Put another gay diverse lady in it," and the Disney stock ticker plummets in real time across the bottom of the screen. Within minutes, #WokeWhite rocketed past 1 million posts, stitching clips of Cartman's meltdown beside real headlines about Snow White's ballooning budget. The episode didn't stop with Zegler. It pelted Disney's entire C-suite, lampooning boardroom PowerPoints titled Virtue ROI and mocking a fictional algorithm that swaps characters' races like trading cards. Kyle tries to reboot Old Yeller with an empowered non-binary pug. Stan suggests rebranding Bambi as environmentally resilient, and the animators even wedge in a blink-and-miss cameo of Grogu sporting a pride cape. It was savage, surgical, and delivered with that trademark South Park smirk that says the harder you complain, the funnier it gets. Across the internet, the pylon detonated domino style. Memers remixed the now infamous paparazzi shot of Disney's CGI creatures, slapping on captions like, 7 feelings, no dwarfs. TikTok creators stitched reaction videos of themselves pretending to be Disney investors, watching the stock graph nosedive while circus music played. Reddit's movie subs hosted live comment threads decoding every jab. The top post simply read, "At least Kathleen Kennedy's fictional twin is self-aware." Then The Simpsons lobbed its own grenade. In a teaser for an upcoming Treehouse of Horror segment, a chalk-pale princess named Snowwoke hops out of her coffin mid-kiss to scold Prince Charming for patriarchal intrusion. She ends up falling for Patty and Selma in a rebellious poly-fairy union, sending Springfield into chaos. Disney, which technically owns The Simpsons through its Fox acquisition, found itself mocked on its own payroll, a meta-roast that commentators likened to a snake eating its tail. By dawn the next morning, corporate cannibalism trended alongside Woke White. Google searches for Snow White controversy spiked 620%, and analysts estimated the cartoon crossfire had given Disney tens of millions in free publicity, of exactly the sort no company wants. The train was officially off the rails, and the next stop was Wall Street. Inside Burbank headquarters, a new emergency call lit up every mobile. Prepare earnings guidance, because Friday's numbers would already test shareholder faith. Friday morning arrived with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Overnight projections had hinted at trouble, but the actual opening weekend numbers stunned even the most bearish analysts. Snow White clawed together just $43 million domestically, a figure that would barely cover 3 days of interest on Disney's ballooning production loan. Pre-market trading turned into a fire sale as institutional desks dumped shares to hedge exposure. By the opening bell, Disney stock was down 3%. Headlines called it the ugliest debut in the studio's modern era. Inside the studio's glass atrium, phones sounded like an orchestra of alarms. One executive whispered that the collapse felt worse than the Lone Ranger because this one was supposed to be critic-proof. Finance teams fired off rapid response decks highlighting potential cost cuts across the slate, delaying smaller projects, freezing travel, even trimming craft service budgets. None of it would patch a 9-figure crater. CNBC's Chiron read, "Fairy tale flop," and pundits dissected every decimal of the audience score. CinemaScore registered a tepid C+. Worse, exit polls revealed something the marketing department dreaded. Older families, the demographic most likely to buy merchandise, felt talked down to. Retail partners reacted instantly. A West Coast big box chain ordered stores to cut Snow White display space in half after weekend sales barely moved the needle on dolls and costumes. Meanwhile, a screenshot from a Wall Street Slack leaked onto Reddit. It showed a risk model chart predicting that if ancillary revenue missed targets by more than 20%, Disney could write down up to $600 million across licensing and park tie-ins. The image went viral, further chilling sentiment. Commentators joked that Cinderella's glass slipper had just shattered shattered on the trading floor. Desperate to calm markets, Disney scheduled a surprise Q&A webcast. Interim CFO Hugh Johnson assured investors the company remained bullish on long-term storytelling strategies. But as the feed ended, a flurry of sell orders hit the tape, proof that words alone couldn't resurrect a princess whose kiss of life never came. Even friendly outlets like Variety framed the downturn as a legacy crisis, warning that nostalgia no longer guarantees profit in an audience fatigued by lectures today. Jack Black threw the first haymaker, cornering Rachel Zegler at a private Academy mixer 2 nights after the disastrous opening. According to a leaked eyewitness memo, he told her she had talked the magic right out of the movie and suggested therapy before any new press tour. Cable crawls looped the confrontation, and Kung Fu Panda critique trended for 12 straight hours. Agents watched the pile-on like meteorologists tracking a Category 5 storm. A-list actresses quietly told publicists to steer them clear of any live-action remakes steeped in activism. One Oscar-winning director tweeted, then deleted, that he would be pitching originals to anyone who still believes fun beats focus groups. Trade magazines printed the quote in bold anyway, framing it as proof the creative class was nearing open revolt. Print media circled next. The Hollywood Reporter splashed a cover line. The year franchise fatigue became franchise fury, quoting insiders who claimed Disney's brand safety team now reviews every third line of dialogue for tone. Variety argued the studio had let social media metrics dictate plot beats, delivering algorithmic boredom. Syndicated op-eds warned that Hollywood's risk aversion had created a new risk, audiences who no longer trust the magic. Meanwhile, Zegler's socials went dark, replaced by a single Instagram story, a storm cloud emoji over a cracked mirror. Fans and haters screenshotted it in seconds, debating whether she was hinting at a career reboot or the next thunderclap. Either way, the signal was clear. Disney no longer owned the narrative, and bigger reputations than hers were about to take collateral damage. The tremor coming next would rumble straight through the studio gates. While late-night comedians' jokes, the atmosphere on Disney's Burbank lot curdled from tense to apocalyptic. Monday's emergency town hall filled stage 27 with folding chairs and forced smiles. Division heads spoke in polished sound bites about realigning the slate, but staffers read the subtext, layoffs. Rumor said every department must trim 10% by quarter's end, and live action was bracing for deeper cuts. The Snow White team, once 300 strong, was already ghost quiet, as contractors' badges deactivated overnight. In post-production, editors watched their workload vanish. Reshoot requests for other films froze. New notes demanded prioritize synergy rather than story fixes. VFX supervisors, still rendering dwarf replacement creatures, were told their entire sequence might never reach daylight because Disney Plus release plans were under active review. Even the commissary felt the shock. Menu prices jumped, and the once-free fruit stand disappeared. Yet the harshest blow landed in an email stamped confidential. Executive bonuses would be deferred until stock rebounded. One producer stared at the screen and muttered, "That means never." The Magic Kingdom suddenly resembled any other corporation. When a crown cracks, the splinters cut everyone nearby in the foreseeable future. The crisis spread far beyond Burbank. Licensing partners from toy giants to cruise line customers convened emergency calls, debating whether to slash Snow White merchandise or redesign packaging mid-run. One European retailer halted a $1 million doll shipment at port, fearing pallets of unsellable products. Disney's consumer products arm now faced the nightmare of reverse logistics and warehouse mountains nobody wanted. Meanwhile, Imagineering teams at Walt Disney World frozen concept art sessions. The planned Snow White parade float, budgeted at $7 million, entered indefinite hold. Park managers worried guests would boo rather than cheer, turning what should be a marquee spectacle into live-streamed embarrassment. In Anaheim, a cast member bulletin bluntly advised character actors to avoid ad-lib lines referencing princes, just in case viral videos spun fresh outrage. Analysts predicted ripple effects across the broader remake slate. Scripts for Hercules and Tangled underwent sudden sentiment audits, double-checking dialogue for anything that might smell of lecture. One development VP grumbled that the new mandate wasn't storytelling, but tone triage. Outside the studio gates, rival executives sensed an opening. Paramount quietly greenlit a Faithful Sleeping Beauty adaptation, pitching it in meetings as comfort food, not confrontation. Fan culture, however, rarely stays angry forever. Some YouTubers argued the Backlash had accomplished its mission. Now they would wait to see if Disney course-corrected. Investors adopted a similar stance. If Disney could deliver a genuine crowd-pleaser by next summer, memories might fade. But if another lecture-forward remake stumbled, confidence could fracture permanently. In a sunset memo, CEO Bob Iger rallied employees to prove critics wrong through excellence. Yet for many, the real question wasn't whether Disney could still produce excellence. It was whether the audience would believe in happily ever after again. Only time and box office will tell. Snow White's collapse wasn't fueled by trolls or random bad luck. It was engineered brick by brick through overconfidence, algorithmic guesswork, and a star who mistook hot takes for charisma. Audiences never rejected progress. They rejected being preached at while paying premium prices. Executives forgot the first rule of enchantment. Wonder can't be optimized on a PowerPoint slide. Now rival studios are sharpening quills, critics smell blood, and investors will tally every smile or frown at the next Disney premiere. For creators, the parable is simple. Craft a story, not a manifesto. Speak to hearts before hashtags. If Disney finds the courage to remember that, the magic may return. If not, this cautionary tale becomes the new industry bedtime story, told whenever someone asks how a princess put a kingdom to sleep. Until then, viewers keep wallets closed, waiting for happily ever after magic again. Disney's misstep shows what happens when studios chase hashtags instead of heart. Audiences crave fresh takes, but they also want sincerity, a story that excites first and teaches later. When the balance tips, even billion-dollar brands can skid on the glass slipper they polished for decades. The takeaway for every creator, marketer, and exec is simple. Put wonder back in the spotlight, keep politics in the wings, and never confuse a focus group frenzy with genuine emotional payoff. The moment storytelling feels like homework, viewers tune out and wallets snap shut. Enjoyed the breakdown? Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and share to keep this conversation and the magic of great storytelling alive.